Welcome to the Borne Report, B-O-R-N-E. There's no U with the USA, and there's no I in team. I'm Jason Bennett, and this is my good buddy.
Hey, my name is Chris Winter.
And we're going to be talking national and California politics and how we can sew this country together. To start, you are a lifelong Democrat, yes? Give us a little
Yes,
background.
however, I might actually be if the Republican Party had remained along the same lines as it was 2002, 2008, I might have become more conservative now, actually. The Republican Party is completely inaccessible to anyone that doesn't pretty much fit along the same lines as 90% of what they believe. You can differ to an extent. There are libertarian conservatives who were upset by the overturning of Roe v. Wade, who would indeed be upset.
I mean, I was disgusted. I was
You were
disgusted.
no, it was shocking. It was definitely shocking.
No, and what it is a conspiracy to obstruct justice. It's literally they lied to the Donald, and then they lied to Congress. Okay, because the Donald's from New York. You know, he's always had the money to take care of his kids. He's not like, yeah, I want you to pass a law that reflects, my desire to keep even a raped girl from having an abortion. Some of these states have no exemption for rape or incest. So, like, little girl runs in a courtroom. I'm 9, and my sister's 11, and it was on 9/11. My dad raped us, and then a brother raped us, and then my brother raped my mother because he's a motherfucker. And then, can we have an abortion? No, because God said. It's like, how is that not separation of church and state, you fucking idiot? I mean, sooner law is as bad as Sharia law. And so, like, the idea that you can enslave somebody who's mature enough to say, I'm not ready to be a mom. I'm not ready to be a parent. Little Johnny Watts' nuts isn't calling me back, and I don't have enough money to have a kid. And then in the same breath, a judge can tell Britney Spears she can't have a kid, and she's worth $50 million fucking dollars because of mental health. I tell you, the one thing that'll cause mental health as quick as anything is poverty. And then imagine poverty with kid.
Have you ever wondered what a woman, obviously Britney Spears is bipolar 2, schizoaffective, something like that. I think we all...
She's great.
Yeah, exactly. Most of us are really rooting for her in one way or another, whether it's her freedom or her recovery or stuff like that. Have you ever wondered what a woman with who's got a diagnosis like that, who's taking Zyprexa, lamotrigine, or something like that, what would she think about it? What would she do if she got pregnant and she was going to bring it to term? Because, like, the cessation of those medications and just abruptly stopping them, I've wondered, like, what doctors would do in a situation like that.
I mean, to God. Well, you got to bring the kid to term, and then you got to get yourself on pills that are healthy for the child. So yeah, I think it's the pills that are messing her up. I don't think she's fucking crazy. I don't think she's crazy at all. What I think happened was she went from dating Justin Timberlake to Kevin Federline. That is literally falling off a dick mountain.
Broke her heart. Justin Timberlake broke her heart really bad, so she said, okay, I'm going to go for someone totally different if that type of guy is going to break my heart that badly.
That's like dating Britney Spears.
That's how girls are sometimes.
Then dating a fat chick, and then the fat chick takes both of your kids and cheats on you, and you also make all the money. And Justin wasn't bad to her. Just like, I want to be free. It's like, I can't fucking deal with, like, a relationship and be, like, a pop star. It's like, I can do whatever I want to. Fuck that.
She was enslaved by her conservatorship. And I think America's core values about freedom. It's probably...
And she lost so much investment ability.
Don't get me wrong. When I was looking at people marching around in West Hollywood or in Santa Monica with those signs saying, free Britney, I didn't disagree, but I was just like, do you not have a fucking job at all? Like, do you not need to earn money on this Tuesday afternoon? Like, what?
Yeah.
Why are you free to be...
I supported them too, but it's like
How?
Uber drivers that are just waiting for the same ride, or like, what the fuck are they doing on a Tuesday? And then like the military retired me, and so now I literally have that much time on my hands. I have my pension, and so I'm running for governor because I'm literally that bored. And I think a lot of things need to be fixed.
What are your thoughts about other potential Republican running mates for governor? Because a lot of people, the Democrats that are lined up,
Kim Kardashian.
I really think that if you're up against Rick Caruso, you might want to be stacking your pennies now, because there's something, I don't know why, but I can see Rick Caruso being in that race. Can't you?
I'm not worried about Rick Caruso.
You don't know? Well, I mean, he's definitely a moderate Republican. That's how he portrays himself. The shady thing about him was going into the mayoral race, where Karen Bass won by like the tiniest little bit. He was a snake that shed his skin a little bit. So he went from being a registered Republican, but right when he entered the mayoral race in Los Angeles, he registered himself as a Democrat, and that I think was pretty transparent to a good amount of people. But he's an example of the type of Republican that I could still coexist with, maybe even work for. With my background and the masters that I've got, I had done a good amount of public sector work, and I could see myself potentially working along with or for Rick Caruso, depending on his policies. He's pretty smart. He's professional. He's obviously got a pretty broad, abstract view for the way California should go.
Has he announced? Is he going to run for governor?
No, he hasn't. And to be honest, I don't know. Would it be strategic for him to say?
I would love to debate him. If you could help me get to Rick Caruso and let's write that down. Let's get Rick Caruso on the show.
When he debated Karen Bass, he did kind of look like a bit of a lame duck. All right, like I don't think he's a stupid man. I think when he's in an interview one-on-one with someone from Spectrum, or someone's interviewing him in a comfortable place, he's actually opens up and he's got ideals and plenty to say. But during that debate, he really was just kind of like his logic and his train of thought coming out of his mouth really seemed like it was at half-mast. Did you watch the debates between him? But I bring up Rick Caruso because, if you're running as a conservative for governor of California, I have a feeling that he may throw his hat in the race. I don't know, because, he wasted almost $200 million on his campaign for mayor. That's got to hurt, no matter who you are. Even if you're worth 1.2 bill or something, which he is, that's got to really hurt. But at the same time, that race itself showed us just how split, and there's more Republicans in California than people realize.
That's and what I'm saying is I think he got hit so hard in the last one. I don't think he's got the war chest to run for governor, and I'm running the opposite play.
I can see him doing it,
running for governor to create a war chest, and so a Republican winning governor in California is
stranger
as likely.
Things have happened.
Yes, but it is as likely as me getting drafted number 1 overall in the NFL draft. And that's just a fact. Like, the Democrat is probably going to win. I don't believe that.
I can see the right Republican
I don't think he'll run.
who carries themselves the right way, who manages to speak their mind without a bunch of harsh or uncouth rhetoric. People want politicians who have couth. Trust me when I say that. People want to see politicians, be they conservative or liberal, in 2025, we yearn for people who actually have couth.
Well, honestly, I think it's the opposite. I think you're yearning for somebody that can stow people together. A pro-union Republican. Nobody's heard of that. A pro-abortion Republican. That doesn't exist. I'm not pro.
I think that
I'm pro stem cell.
The second thing that you said was pretty much true. I think that there are some pro-union Republicans. I think that there are some, not many.
There are. I've never met one, and I definitely think a veterans union would help the homeless problem here in Los Angeles so hugely that we could copy it for other cities. The VA just does such a bad job that we could do a great one. LA is where everyone flocks to.
The VA does definitely have some holes in its approach for people's physical or mental health and the services they've got.
It's literally, they throw money at the problem, and I could do the same job for 1/10 of the money.
So you're saying that it's not necessarily a dearth of funding. It's management of the funds that they've got, or staff,
the taxpayers are so good to us. It's literally the staff are wasteful and holier than thou. They're sitting out there. They're sitting out there having bulldozers just rust. I remember I was working at the VA for a second, and at the end of the year they had extra money in the budget, and so what they did was they tore apart a perfectly good desk so they could buy an $8,000 desk, because if they didn't spend the $8,000 or the $9,000 or whatever it was, they would get less funding the next year. And so they literally tore this thing apart just to put in one that was slightly better. And it's like they were going to spend that money, and they do that all the time, but at the billions and at the trillions level. And it's, Halco, the only name you need to know in military-industrial complexes. If we could become the AC Delco of the military-industrial complex, we could give a lot of vets jobs. If we can give them a job, we can give them a mortgage. And if we can give them a mortgage, we can give them stability. And now they're not on housing vouchers. They're not on any of that. And you've freed up so much funding. You go from spending $7,000 a month, or I'm sorry, a week sometimes, but at least a month when you've got them in the DOM. And then you've got them on a housing voucher probably for the rest of their life because their skills aren't translatable. If we funnel them into military-industrial complex jobs, we start building nuclear power plants for a nuclear future. We get the American Foreign Legion off the ground, and now we have a way to kind of the illegal immigrant that wants to be patriotic. He can earn citizenship, or she can earn citizenship, just like people earn French citizenship in the American or in the French Foreign Legion.
There are people in the United States illegally, or their ethnic counterparts who are here legally in the United States who did vote for Trump, who are very, very anti-illegal immigration. Have you ever heard about? There's some straight guys out there who really aren't straight underneath, but they choose a lot of really harsh homophobic rhetoric to come out of their mouth to distract people from that inner truth. Pretty sure that's a direct parallel there. Okay, so there are people who are in the United States illegally who voted for Trump, right? Who might have signed this, that in order to vote for Trump, depending on the state, depending on whether there was voter rights.
What's your thoughts about the immigration rates?
The immigration rates in the United States. Well, tell me more about what you mean.
I think they're necessary. I absolutely believe that if you don't have a union card, you can't work here, and that they're driving down wages. And it comes down to that. It's not a racial issue. It's nothing else. You are a scab. At the end of the day, the Republican Party needs to rebrand this as like, instead of illegal alien, scab. You do not have a Social Security card. And so what you are doing is coming here and bankrupting Social Security. You are bankrupting Medicare. You are bankrupting Medicaid. You're going to cost this state $8 billion in health care alone.
I see some pictures of Kristi Noem. I've seen at least one picture of Kristi Noem here in the studio.
She's doing a great job.
So tell me, well, when I hear you say that, what do you think she would say about it?
I think she needs more resources to do a better job, and we need to go after the nation of origin for payment for the deportation cost, and then some, like probably like plus 130, maybe even triple damages. Just, hey, we're collecting this, and we can either collect it through tariffs or we can like blockade your goddamn port.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I'm just telling you right now that almost every country that the Trump administration would contact about that would definitely...
Yeah, tell them to fuck off, right?
Yeah.
And so what I would do is I would take my Navy and I would blockade their ports and shut their entire economy down. And then I would charge them 3 times what it costs. And point blank period. If you're not making a living wage in the United States and you have a kid, I want you charged with 90 days in prison. Because at the end of the day, what they do is they have extra people. Their economies cannot handle it, and then they come over here in droves because of economics. And then they vote vehemently anti-American. They vote vehemently pro-communist. They vote vehemently, anti any other color but themselves, wherever the hell they're from. And they're taught from birth to hate by Democrats/communists. Critical race theory is taught in Mexico. Way worse.
Knowing the distinction between communism and socialism that we do, because there's definitely a difference. Okay, well, why would you say that?
I mean, even National Socialism, which is fascism, is pretty close to communism. It's essentially give me the power for the greatness of Germany, or give me the power so that the people can have what they need. Essentially, what you do is you give all your power to the government and watch the government fuck you. It's insanity. We need to lower taxes in this state, not raise them. If you pay 30% state income, federal income, and house taxes, land taxes, if you pay more than 30% of that, you're getting that money back the day I become governor, because we drive away our Hollywood people, our big number taxpayers, and then we don't have services, and we have to cut services because we push away our big dollar taxpayers. Like, they'll pay a reasonable tax to live here. If it's no more than 30% of your income for your land taxes, like the taxes on your house, your state income, and your federal income, if you get a return for everything else, because essentially, I don't know if I'll be able to lower the tax rates. What I would do is essentially go to court and argue that taxation past that is harmful to the state, and therefore, as governor, I am writing an executive order returning that money to net taxpayers in order to encourage them to stay. And I think I can win that case. I don't know what the legislature is going to do, and I'm going to be stacked with a Democratic legislature who's going to be loath to lower taxes on the wealthiest people. But if the wealthiest people are the people that build this fucking state, we're going to make it easier to make movies here. We're going to make it. I mean, if there's a country that's doing something for movies that we're not doing, we're going to be doing that. And then we're going to go after that country if it's too generous, and say, look, you're hurting our ability to tax. And so we'll tariff you as a state, because with respect, I think you can. The way the Constitution was written, you didn't have an income tax back then. You didn't, and they didn't want states issuing tariffs because essentially, well, you didn't have a minimum wage, but you had each state with their own currency, and they were trying to push a national currency, and they wanted free trade between the states. At this point, I think a lower minimum wage in another state is a reason to tariff, so that we can get their minimum wage up to our minimum wage. I would bring forth a child minimum wage where the state would match that money.
There's a lot of conservative people who are pro-business and are actually against raising the minimum wage, because when they look at it,
Raised to 18.
Which is fine. But there's a lot of people who pay mind to either big box business or brick and mortar or more smaller business, and they look at the prospects of jacking up the minimum wage, and it's a war between either corporate interests or business owners where they say, we won't make it.
I got a
We
solution.
won't make it.
I got a solution.
Okay.
So a child minimum wage of $12.16, and then the state matches that money for the child in a 216K or a 401K, but a 216K would essentially be like an extra FAFSA. So we would have home economics, the economics of owning a home, running a portfolio, becoming an investor, and living a blessed life. Mm-hmm. And, it's a working title, but essentially at 13, that kid could trade stocks. And so you're making $12.16 an hour. The state pays you up to the 18, but they put that money in an account. And so at 13, you'll literally have home economics class, and it's trading stocks and, buying bonds and creating a 401k and becoming an investor, because I don't know, outside of a robot, you're not going to outwork a robot. So you need to teach a kid how to invest in school.
We need to prepare our kids for what AI may or may not do to the workforce. We don't know. It is emerging right now, and it doesn't look very good. So in terms of the employment numbers in this country, AI doesn't look like it's going to bring a windfall, does it?
Well, it's going to hurt employment.
Yes.
So
I think yes. I think that's a fair statement no matter what.
I would institute a child tax. Now, this would not go for pre-existing conditions, but essentially to get our teachers raises, $100 a year for a boy, or I'm sorry, a girl, and $300 for a boy. The boys their mental health issues through the roof. When's the last time a girl was a school shooter? There's football, pads, all this other crap. Boys are actually more expensive to educate. You don't have to build a fucking football stadium for a fucking girl. You could literally run an all-girls school for cheaper than you could run a joint school, because they just require a gymnasium. They don't require a football stadium. They don't require pads. They don't require insurance outside of some girl getting hurt during gymnastics. They don't get hurt during athletics. And when you have an all-girls school, you don't have rapiness and all this other nonsense. And that would be a great way to close the wage gap. I would offer state all-girls schools, all-boys schools, especially at the juvenile level.
Charter, in the vein of charter schools, or how would you offer either subsidies or encourage the development and funding of schools that are either all-boys schools or all-girls schools?
So if it's a failing school, it's
That's fine, but I'm talking about what state or government agencies and what funding from those agencies or entities would you leverage in order to get something like that done or getting off the ground?
So the Department of Education already gets money for the high school.
Okay.
If it's a failing school, you take 2 schools that are failing, that are within the same district, or the 2 worst schools, and turn one of them into a boys' school and one of them into a girls' school.
Past 2 people who have been in charge of the Department of Education under President Trump. So both Republicans who have previously been in charge. What was her name? Trump's first term. The name of, what was her name? I'm blanking on this, but the woman who, in 2016, who Trump appointed as the chair of the Department of Education. She said that the department might as well not exist and that shouldn't be involved.
Right?
No, she was a woman. She kind of had this kind of bob haircut that went. I normally would remember. I normally would remember something like this.
I disagree vehemently that there shouldn't be a Department of Education.
I mean,
We would have a Department of Education.
which is fine. Well, I mean, that's a federal level. We're talking about.
No, state level. I would have a Department of Education.
Yes, Betsy DeVos. Thank
Betsy
you.
DeVos,
She took charge of the Department of Education, and before she was done, 3 years in, she basically was like, "I'm convinced that this agency does not need to exist," and that's similar to what That's similar to what the woman who he's put in charge now is saying. She doesn't seem like she wants to wipe it off the face of the earth, but.
Well, we think that we've lost the schools, and so I would also.
Well, that's
write an
LA.
executive.
Look, we're in LA, and in Los Angeles, any single person who can get their kids into private school
Gets
will.
because at the end of the day, public schools are run by liberals. They're run by and they're taught one perspective, and it's you're bad if you're an American and you're a colonizer.
Because
The schools suck.
Public schools are more likely to have hoodlums, kids who are
And
selling pot at selling marijuana.
So
at
make it an
14,
all-boys
all kinds
school,
of
an
stuff.
all-girls school. If you got 2 failing schools, and watch the discipline go through the roof. And you can schedule proms and this and that. But if the schools are failing, you don't have to. There's no need for extra funding. That's an all-boys school. That's an all-girls school. That's it. Until we see the grades come up, because you're obviously dealing with distractions. There's no cell phones in the class, and we're teaching economics.
People were bitching about that. I said, no, hell yeah. If people are going to say there's a statewide law or even a national law that says no cell phones in class, I like it. I like it a lot.
I don't like the tablets either. I don't like any of that crap.
God, those kids these days, I swear. I didn't have I'm 43. When I was a kid, there was no tablet for me to cling on to. But these kids, you take it away. My niece has gotten older, but I look at it. I remember when she was 3 or 4 years old. Take that tablet away from her, and she would throw a fit for the entire. She would be devastated. All of these kids, they all have a tablet. I think that here's the thing about that. What I think in America is going to happen is that after Trump's gone, we are going to have Democrats come into power for a decade or 2. However,
no fucking way.
Think about it. People like me.
You mean in the state of California, or you mean in national?
Now,
there's no way a Democrat is going to win the presidency. You're crazy. You're crazy. Okay. I mean,
so
who could beat Tulsi Gabbard, or who could beat Tim Scott, or who could beat, Little Miss Homeland Insecurity, fucking Kristi Noem, or who could beat Vance? Nobody in the Cortez? Cortez beat Vance? No shot. None. She's a communist.
And Gen Zs in Los Angeles, New York, metropolitan areas are not having kids. Yeah. But Gen Z and millennials in places like Oklahoma,
so a childless
Texas,
tax credit. That's what we need.
It's two different cultures, really. And conservative Gen Zs and conservative millennials are less likely to live in, statistically speaking, throughout the United States, are less likely to live in places where it's too fucking expensive to start a family, like it is here. In 20 years, we're going to have a really strong conservative movement come back because
Well, I think fiscal conservative. I don't think you're going to have
younger liberal urbanites are much more likely to not be having kids and to just get married and that's it.
Exactly.
But then there's conservative Gen Z people in much smaller towns who have very different values, and they also live in places where they can afford to be starting families. The liberals are going to start having a lot less kids for a few basic reasons. And young conservative people are going to be starting to have a lot more children, and the gap is going to be pretty significant. So in 20, 25, maybe 30 years, if this conservative movement does subside, which inevitably any movement, no matter who it is, no matter where it's from, doesn't last forever because...
So what do you mean by conservative? What do you mean by conservative? You're talking about religious nut jobs, right?
If one conservative, if one political party that's associated with either one animal,
I don't see any...
was always and indefinitely to be in power, and you don't see anyone beating them ever, and they remain in control of the White House and Congress indefinitely, every 4 years, 4 years after 4 years after 4 years.
That's not what I said. But this next time around, it's going to take... It's the left is going further left instead of righting the ship and coming to the center. And so I'm coming to the center. I'm seeing that the Republican Party is taking a lap. And so what we need to do is come towards the center. Like, you know, Roe v. Wade was wrong, and a Republican needs to stand up and say
Roe v.
Wade was fucking wrong.
The overturning of Roe v. Wade.
Jesus never said anything about abortion, and if he did, fuck him. Because at the end of the day, and I meant what I said, you don't pass religious laws in this country. It's the same as Sharia law. Like if Muhammad said, I don't care what Muhammad said. I don't care what Jesus said. There's a separation between church and state, telling a woman that she has to have a parasite and bring it to term. And then if she gets charged with child abuse, if she doesn't know how to raise a kid, but she's woman enough to admit, I'm not ready to have a kid. This could be a minor. This could be somebody that was raped, and you're telling her she has to have a kid. The consequences for sex is different than a man and a woman. And I pay attention. Bullshit.
Yes, and I agree. But do you want to know what the opponents of that point of view would say?
Yes, I can't.
I'll tell you, because I've spent years empathizing with these people and understanding how they think, how they don't think, what they want, what they don't want. I already know what very conservative people who are listening to what you have to say about abortion right now would think. They would say, oh, please, those examples are so minuscule and so few and far between.
But then why'd you write the law away?
People who believe abortion should be legal, they're going to make them a big deal. They're going to make them huge.
So then let it go. Then let it go. Well,
they'll say that.
So we have to, as a party, stop being bigoted towards women and fix it. If it's so minuscule of a problem, let's fix it because it's causing us 30% of the vote.
I don't think the Republican
It's going to cost us a women's vote.
I don't think the Republican Party is bigoted against women. I really don't.
I don't think the Republican voter is. That law and the Republican Party backing that law is bigoted towards women. And so we cannot, as a party, back the overturning of Roe v. Wade. It's wrong. It was wrong.
What's done is done.
No, it's not what's done is done. It's real simple. Those judges obstructed justice. And so at the end of the day, you could get Roe v. Wade overturned. You do it at the state level, and then you go to the federal government.
Well, they send it back to the states, but when they overturn it, they send it back to the states.
They can't send slavery back to the states. We fought a war over slavery, and you can't send a federally reserved right that is essentially slavery back to the states. They are wrong to do so. On top of the fact that it has a disparative impact on women. You can't send something that violates the Civil Rights Act of 1964 because that's a federal Civil Rights Act. You're just saying that a woman's consequences for sex is having a baby. You must have a baby. That's total effing bullshit. This affects one sex to a far different degree than another. You have men getting older and wiser and making more money over time, whereas a woman, her prime earning years are her baby making years. What if she's a model, and or what if she's looking for a trophy husband and she's a trophy wife? You know, what about the cheerleader? Essentially, there are some women that just market their looks, and so what you do is force them to wreck their bodies, and now they're less marketable. I mean, would Kim Kardashian be what she is today if she hadn't had surrogate babies? If she just had like a mom bod? You know, it's with
Did she?
Yeah, both of them.
She had a surrogate for both of them?
Yeah, she didn't wreck that. She didn't wreck that to fucking have a bunch of fucking gremlins.
Yeah.
And so that's, at the end of the day, and I think we need to use the F word. I think we need to be more assertive. Women, you cannot allow 4 men and some Nazi, you know what, to tell you you don't have a right to have an abortion. Yes, you do. You can't send that back to the states.
What do you mean you can't? Because when it was overturned, that's exactly what it did.
They broke the
Okay.
law when they did that. They violated the
Okay,
Civil Rights
okay,
Act.
I hear that, and to be honest, if you're saying that there's a way to rectify that, I'd be interested in knowing. I'm not trying to put you on the. I'm curious.
Okay, so I just told you, like at the end of the day, you send it to our state Supreme Court, and then you issue an executive order saying that sending it back to the states violated the Federal Civil Rights Act of 1964, i.e., it discriminated against women, period. And it created a disparative impact. So you don't even have to prove it discriminates against women. You have
So
to
you're
state,
saying
matter of factly,
take it back. You're saying find a clever way to take it.
No, not
clever, not necessarily clever, but find a way to take it back to the Supreme Court.
Yes, and accuse the Supreme Court to their faces of conspiring under RICO to overturn Roe v. Wade. At least 3 judges, because they flat out did that.
You think that they're going to come back with a different decision when it's controlled? It's
Tell them matter-of-factly that the
but it's still the
executive
same
can
majority.
wipe his ass with
It's still the same majority of people who made that decision to begin with. You're thinking that they're going to say...
You know what I would do if I was president?
Make a different decision.
Do you know what I'd do if I was president? Because I'm going to run for president, I have to run for governor. I would go arrest all 3 judges that Trump appointed for conspiracy under RICO to overturn the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and Roe v. Wade, because they looked at Donald in his face and said they would not do that. And they looked the Senate in their face and said they would not do that. Now, the other 2 judges, they could say they changed over time. But these 3 judges literally lied to the Senate, conspired under RICO to get that job, and then the moment they had the numbers, voted to deprive 50% of the population from basic human rights. They are going to jail for 25 to life. They're getting disbarred, and they can fuck themselves. There is no effing way that what they did was legal. And I would sue for housing vouchers.
There's no effing way they'll be held accountable. I'm not disagreeing with you when I also say there's no effing way.
The president could arrest him.
But do you think that's happening anytime soon?
Trump appointed him. He's not going to do it, but I will. At the end of the day, I might do it as governor. They've lost their minds. You cannot ask me to be part of a union, a United States, and then say federal law doesn't apply to half the people. It applies to women too. And I don't know what Amy Coney Barrett's problem is, but there are plenty of women.
I knew she was coming. I knew she was coming. The moment I took a look at that woman's face, I don't have anything against her as a human being, but the moment I took one look at Amy Coney Barrett, I said, "You're going for Roe." Knew it. The moment I looked at her,
it was disgusting.
She's very smart. When you look at her on paper and you see all of the experience or education or
doesn't matter,
and all those things,
you conspired under RICO to overturn setting law. They asked her every which way they could, and she stated matter-of-factly, "I have no intention, no desire, and will not overturn Roe v. Wade." Period. The Senate did what they were supposed to do. They committed a crime to get a job, and then sending that back to the states was a criminal act in itself. It was a conspiracy to obstruct justice under RICO. It's a very easy case.
Democrats were in control of this. No, were they? Were Democrats in control of the Senate when she was confirmed?
It does not matter. They literally argued to get on the Supreme.
When
if you commit the criminal act before you're on the Supreme.
If the Senate is directly in charge of either confirming someone as a nominee to the Supreme Court, that's the Senate's job at the time. Of course it matters.
Yes, but
I'm trying to think about whether or not
it doesn't check the judiciary the way it should. It's a Bermuda Triangle, but don't get lost in it, okay? The legislature can impeach the president just like a president can arrest a bad judge. They just never do it. You can and you should arrest a bad judge. And I will, flat out, probably as governor, take the cow guard to the Supreme Court and arrest those 3 judges and flat out charge them with RICO. You can charge someone that committed a crime in a state if it's breaking a federal law, and you could charge them in a state court theoretically. I mean, they're doing that with this guy that stabbed that poor Ukrainian girl. They're bringing him up on state and federal murder charges, and I would literally bring him up on federal RICO charges as well as obstruction of justice statewide. Well, like all 3 judges that Trump appointed. And let's see him beat that case, because I guarantee you that most judges are just so holier than thou. They could not imagine having to sit there as a defendant.
Nope, they can't.
Maybe
Kavanaugh could.
I ain't worried about it. As a Kavanaugh,
Kavanaugh
you
knows
asked
what it's like to be a
matter
defendant.
of factly, would you overturn Roe v. Wade? Yes. And did you state matter of factly you would not? And
Christine
then
plays-
the first opportunity you get, you overturn it. You send it back to the states. Are you out of your fucking mind? And I mean, literally, like, you have to be that aggressive with the law because you're defending basic human rights for women. And you know, I think with respect, the Spears case opened the door for men. If you can prove that she's just a gold digger, or that you have no intention and you're not good for each other's mental health, you should be able to walk in as a male and say, I demand she have an abortion. We agreed to have sex. She said she was on birth control. She poked holes in the condom. I ain't having a baby with this kid or this woman. I ain't paying child support. I ain't doing any of that crap. I know she's pregnant. She claiming she's pregnant with my kid. Give her a DNA test, and I want to see an abortion unless she can pay for this kid herself, because I'm not going to have her raise somebody that's like out to hate me. You got an overpopulated planet. I think there's an exit.
The other point of view, when people who are pro-abortion hear your point of view, what do you think they say? You've always got to think this.
If a judge can tell Britney Spears that because of her mental health she can't have a baby, the same judge can tell a woman that the government is bankrupt. We don't have money.
That was wrong.
It doesn't matter what they think is wrong. The government is bankrupt. So at the end of the day, we don't have the money to take care of you and your kid, and you can't force him into slavery to pay you child support. So yeah, you're having an abortion. You're not financially fit, and therefore not mentally or emotionally ready. Spears versus the state of California. You're not financially or emotionally ready to have this kid. Moreover, the father of the child does not want to have the kid, and so you're having it against that father's wishes and still pursuing monetary gain for yourself. This
has never been something that I'm exclusively acquainted with. I ain't getting pregnant, and I ain't getting no one pregnant. I'm just going to put it to you that way. Yeah, but if I were in a heterosexual man's position with this issue, I literally would be like, the only thing I really can control is how many condoms I put on and how much what I do. That's the only amount of control that I could possibly have.
Again, it's going to take somebody taking this to court, but Spears versus California opened the door. If a judge can say someone is not mentally ready to have a kid and put her on birth control, you can theoretically, as a judge or as a plaintiff, demand a jury and say she should have had an abortion and now she's on the hook for it. And the state's on the hook for it, or the state needs to have the ability to, like, end pregnancies. The planet is overpopulated. We are literally parasites eating the alien ant farm. There are too many effing human beings, and the carbon footprints are the problem. It's not carbon, it's a carbon footprint. What you cause when you have too many human is you cause too much bad environmental everything. And this is where we can win more Democrat votes right here. It's like there's going to be a carbon footprint tax, at the UN. And our Navy can enforce that tax. Essentially, we would deal
with America for a little while until they can forget
we
about
are
being told that we're
the
all
most
going to hell.
powerful country on the earth by a mile. We're on the Security Council, and if we deem that carbon is a threat to humanity and issue a carbon tax, our Navy could enforce it. And that's all I'm saying. Whose Navy is going to let something through the Suez Canal or the Panama Canal without our fucking permission? Nothing. And if we say, as California, we're not taking in imports and we're not exporting to a country that won't abide by the carbon tax, and it's not industry or development or whatever. It's having too many people, because I'm sick and tired of having my football game interrupted by some Feed the Children commercial. I'm sick and tired of these poor kids in schools turning into communists because it's like, we need to take from the haves because we're the have-nots. It's like, your mom shouldn't have had you. You shouldn't have a fourth or fifth kid. That's disgusting, because you're if you're a hyper-religious person, Timothy 5:8, there's no debate. To have a kid into poverty makes you worse than an enemy of God. If you breed and you don't feed, you are worse than an infidel. It says so in the Bible. So It doesn't say anything about you can't have an abortion. What it says is if you have kids into poverty, you're worse than an enemy of God. Timothy 5:8. It's plainest English.
People who do that anyway go to church and recite Nicene Creed like
but
we do.
you could literally damn near end childhood poverty, get our teachers raises, have smaller classrooms. If you taught this not only in the school setting, but asserted it matter-of-factly. Nobody likes the idea of a welfare queen. Well, nobody likes the idea of some hyper-religious couple having 7, 8, 10, 12 kids, and, pushing their bullshit agenda either,
Like, sure.
Period.
With the Westboro Baptist Church. I swear to God, the last time I had the cold or the flu, I spent like the entire day binge watching everything I could possibly catch or see about the Westboro Baptist Church. And that's the type of family you just described. But I love them. I think they're amazing and hilarious and fascinating. And I really, really, really want to have Thanksgiving dinner with them this year.
It costs $5,000 to educate a kid in high school. So if you have 7 kids, are you paying enough taxes to educate your children? No. And that's before we talk about
that
roads
depends
and
on where
everything
you
else.
live. Do you live in a neighborhood or do you live in a region where you're paying Mello-Roos or not? Mello-Roos are taxes that people,
But
property
the
owners pay.
the state pays the
Mello-Roos.
bulk of it. The state pays the bulk of it, not your land taxes. Like, at the end of the day, the state has to come up with $25,000 a kid to educate. And so Melrose, you're not paying enough taxes. There's no fucking way you're paying enough taxes unless you're Elon Musk to take care of 3, 4, 5 kids, educating them in this day and age. And killer robots are putting everybody to work. We need to be having one-child families, not.
It depends on where, but I think Mello-Roos account for anywhere from 15 to 22 or 23% of the funding for local, elementary K through 12.
Yeah, but okay, so
Depending
the
on where
other
you are.
70% comes from the state. And what I'm saying
The other
is
70% comes from the state. None of it comes from the federal government at all. None.
okay, the state and the federal government. The point being,
Okay.
we should have a child tax, not a child tax credit. Now, I would not have.
It'd
You
be
know,
funny
it's
to see
something
their
retro-
reaction to that.
It would
I
be
would love to
retroactive.
see
It wouldn't
the
be. It would.
reaction to
It
that.
like look. If you've got 3 kids, you're going to collect your child tax credit.
Can you imagine all of those barbecue bacon people and how furious they would be the moment you
I don't think it would be. I don't think it would be because it's like you have kids in school, right? You have kids in school, right? All I'm saying is don't have another one. I'm not taking your child tax credit. I'm saying I want the child's. I don't, and I think 90% of the people are with me. I think we're going to raise a tax, and
No.
we're going to make it literally what it. We're going to increase it 30% a year until it's what it costs to put a kid through high school, and then you'll stop having fucking kids.
Costs in terms of not parents, but in terms of what it costs for schools. Okay, I think I get what you.
Yeah. And so essentially the child tax would go up every year until people got.
Taxing people an increased amount based on how many children they have over what, 2 or
No.
3?
Moving forward. So if you have 3 kids, you're going to get your child tax credit all the way to 18 or 24 or whatever the current law is for that kid. If you have a kid 9 months after I'm governor, you're paying a tax, not getting a child tax credit. So I understand the child tax credit is federal. So we will tax you at the state level for more than your child tax credit.
It's an interesting response to people who are having kids in order to gain more federal assistance, basically.
Not only that, but it reduces classroom sizes and it allows us funding for teachers' salaries. So this not only will encourage a lessening of the carbon footprint, this will encourage less poverty within families. This will encourage an upper middle class. But people
I don't think you need to worry about the upper middle class. I think that
talking
themselves
about
taken
putting
care of.
people into the upper middle class. If you don't shoot yourself in the foot and have a kid in your 20s, you're probably going to be in the upper middle class. I mean, I'm not a genius by any stretch, but because I've had no kids, I'm able to run for governor. You think an actual dad with my resources could do that? No fucking way. But I have time on my hands, and whether or not I have a partner, I think I'd be stronger with a partner. I don't have one currently, but the idea that kids are somehow a blessing, they're a responsibility, and so many people don't live up to that responsibility. Yeah. Not only are we forcing young women to have kids that they're not ready to have, and they're admitting they're not ready to have, but If anything, the Bible teaches the opposite. You should never have a kid that you're not ready to care for. It's a sin.
If you're a heterosexual
Abortion is
man
not a
dating,
sin.
if you're a heterosexual man dating and hooking up in the world the
That's
way it
madness.
is now,
That is
now,
Catholic dogma bullshit. That the idea that the gods, which are extraterrestrial,
that's
think
not
that
what I'm saying at
homosexuality is a bad thing.
No, that's not where I was going with that at all. No.
Okay.
That's not what I was saying. Not even a little. Okay. I'm saying right now that I'm putting on your hat as a straight man.
Okay.
And when I think about what we're talking about right now, if I were a straight man who, I mean, obviously there's lots of married straight men who probably look for it too, but if I was a straight guy who's looking to go hook up or, get it on and stuff like that, look, I would just be like, we could talk about whether or not the world is a fair place when it comes to procreation and birthrights later, but I've got one bit of actual control in my hands, and it's either condoms or eating a girl out or letting her suck me off. That's the control that you have, and that's it. I admit that I really thought about it.
I would create more control.
As a gay guy, I've really thought about it, and I've thought, man, if you get a woman pregnant, first of all, you feel this kind of pinpointed sense of dread over your neck and your head, thinking, holy shit, is she going to keep it or not? And I've thought about it. I've empathized, and I've felt the empathy of the powerlessness that some men might feel when they are in a situation like that, and it was not intended to be that way, but shit happens.
It should be legal to force that man.
But look, whether or not it's legal, the only potential control that you could have, whether or not it's fair.
I got that. What we're talking about is creating legislation.
Okay.
I know what it is today. What I'm saying is we could live in a better society where we understood as a government, we do have the right to restrict your ability to breed relentlessly without, like, if healthcare is a right, then I have a right to restrict your ability to have kids past my ability to pay for it. If I, Uncle Sam, and or the state of California am in the red, I can't pay for extra kid from person who is not paying taxes. So if you're not a net taxpayer, you're not having a kid.
So you force them to go fucking work. You don't necessarily. As a government, you stop paying.
You cannot force somebody into slavery or to work. You can't beat somebody into working.
Well,
and if they don't care enough about their kids,
if you can't,
if someone's not working,
if someone's not spending their life earning money in order to support themselves, if you can't force them to go do those things, then that's not good. Because I wish that we could force them.
Maybe, and that's...
There's 1.5 million people who don't work in this society.
So having a work requirement...
Judge Judy is right.
So having a work requirement, which is some Republicans are about, and that's why we need to win that vote. Having a work requirement, we would definitely have a work requirement for even anything up to food stamps. I mean, there are potholes that need to be filled. There are government buildings that need to be painted. We can get you into a union. Painters have a union. There are merchant marine jobs. There are jobs out there, and at Simplified Capital for you, we would help the state do that for its homeless population, for its out of work population as well.
We're speaking in generalities here. Why don't we get back to your vision for California and how you want? Why don't we talk about that?
Okay, so this Simplified Capital idea could be as big as they want it to be, but essentially imagine a bank that was also a hiring hall that catered specifically to the needs of ex-contractors / mercenaries and Marines. Essentially a Navy Federal with a hiring hall in it. And we would start that bank here in LA, and then every VA that we could afford to expand to, obviously around Marine bases, first and foremost, because that's the customer we're looking at. And then, expand. If we stabilize that domino, there's a lot of Marines here in California. If we stabilize that domino, it will help housing rates for everybody.
Okay, so I asked you about what your plans are for California.
That's
one. Okay, yes, and my point is that is one of them. It can't be the only one.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
Lowering. Nobody pays more than 30% taxes, whether it be state income or land taxes. Nobody pays more than 30%
So you're saying that
taxes.
nobody within their job, their property, say a person owns a condo, they have a job, and that individual, combined with all of those assets described, will never pay more than 30% of their income in taxes. Okay.
Never.
And first of all, I like that. And second of all, it would take a whole lot of ingenuity and number crunching and stuff like that. It sounds like something that, who knows, maybe even could be done.
Well, the thing is,
Maybe.
not even number crunching. We just would give it, if it exceeded that amount, we'd give you a return back, essentially, and say, look, at the end of the day, this is your tax return. We cut off the limit at 30%. I think that would, the Laffer curve would come into effect, and we'd have a lot of people coming back to the state of California. I would also have a California Secret Service. If you pay more than $5 million a year in income tax and or $25 million in a lifetime, you would get a limo and 2 agents. And that way you could go enjoy this beautiful city in this state. You wouldn't have that shooter with that healthcare guy. What was his name? The one that
Yes.
Yeah, you wouldn't have that situation for your high-tech people, and they're not leaving. You wouldn't have Joe Rogan leaving because it's worth the taxes to live in Los Angeles, But we've got to make it better for the movie industry. If they're doing it by
people will be back. They leave because it's cheaper, but just like lots of people. Okay,
we need to make the film industry.
Lots of those rich
competitive.
people in Manhattan moved down to Florida to avoid taxation. Half of them went back. Half of those people who moved out of LA for cheaper
that is
film
not happening.
creating,
They're not
them will
anything.
be back.
They're not filming anything in LA anymore because we are
they're not.
uncompetitive, and we need to be Hollywood again. We need to be the most competitive place to shoot a movie, and we'll get you on ticket sales or something. It's profitable.
So you're saying maybe an idea might be to offer tax credit to aspiring filmmakers?
No, what I would do is offer whatever. I would get Hollywood together and say, look, what red tape you need me to cut? What do you need me to do to
That's
bring
involving
shooting back here?
That's directly involving capitalists in public policy decisions
I don't think there should be a special tax.
without any hurdles for them whatsoever.
Say whatever hurdles. I said the state as an exigent circumstance.
Because
due
if
to
you
our
want to
budget.
get into a room with them and talk about it, they'd probably, if you're governor and he said, come and have a
Are
conversation
you
with me
familiar
about it,
with
they would.
exigent circumstance?
With
An emergency circumstance.
Okay.
So because there is such a budget deficit, I as the governor would assert certain power, i.e. this industry is suffering. We're going to cut red tape and essentially reapply whatever taxation or whatever you think that should be done for very, very, very successful movies, like ticket sales. But if the movie doesn't, make money, we still want them shooting in LA. Sometimes a movie, is a box office bomb, and the state literally creates that situation. I would not tax a movie until after the receipts come in for the sales. So I would not.
There's a multitude of factors that go into why the film industry is struggling the way it is, and some of them are just very basic. Okay, look, hey, hold on. One of the reasons that they have the butts and seats problem in theaters, that a lot of people
I don't know
talk
what
about.
that means.
Well, butts and seats means most people aren't
butts
even
and
bothering
seats.
going to the theaters anymore. They'd rather sit at home and they'd watch streaming. Here's an example of something that's so basic and so apolitical that no one knows what to do about it. People are lonelier than ever in this society. Think about it. There's so many people where if they had someone to go to the movies with, well, there's some people who go to the movies by themselves. There are, but that's probably 30% compared to a lot of people who would go to the movies if they had someone to go with, but they don't because there's a loneliness epidemic. I mean, there's that.
So
There's lots of reasons why the
Should
film
state
industry
come
is.
up with a dating
No,
app?
no.
What do you want me to do about that?
Well, when you talk about how the film industry is struggling and ways to get it back on its feet, especially with
Romantic
productions
comedies?
in Los Angeles. I mean, my
Hey,
point.
can I get a
My
drink?
point with that. My point was saying that was that there's a lot of different factors as to why the film industry is
So
struggling. Some
you
of
want a
them are more
solution or
obvious than
not?
others.
You want a solution or not? This will not fix everything, but I would bring back drive-ins. I would buy these vacant lots and turn into a drive-in and literally.
Yeah. How many permits do you have to get for that?
So, and that's the thing. The governor can cut as much red tape as he wants to. It's called an executive order, and when the state is bankrupt, there is no red tape that you can't cut through, unless it is a federally protected law. All these little regulators, they mean nothing. Your governor is damn near a god. Okay, like there is more power in that governor's office than you know. If you had somebody that just wasn't bought and paid for, they just cut through the regulations. Like, nope, until we balance the budget, this regulation is canceled, and that regulation is canceled, and that regulation is canceled. And hey, what will bring filmmaking back? Fine, that regulation is canceled. Short of it being an OSHA thing, or safety thing, or I mean, we don't have water and fire hydrants over a fucking guppy. Like, this is kind of bullshit that, the governor could just do something about. I don't give a damn about, the Lorax. Let him speak for the trees. I don't give a shit. At the end of the day, if we have forest fires that are continuing to burn like this, we need to deploy something better to stop it. And I think that the Democrats did that shit on purpose. I think they literally looked at people that owned a house and said, that might be a Republican, but if you need a housing voucher, you're voting Democrat. And you look, they're trying to turn everything into low-income housing so they can bring in more of their voters. I would do the opposite.
I think that's something they're doing to try to impact the homeless problem. I don't know.
No,
I don't
what
know
they're
if
doing.
Bringing in a lot of liberal people. First of all, I have a feeling that as a demographic, homeless people might not be the highest voting propensity demographic.
That's exactly false.
They vote a lot.
They exactly.
Obviously, that's
they're the mail-in
generalization
votes.
to make
They're
all the way.
literally how Joe Biden won. Okay, this community organizing. They literally go out and they give you an Obama phone and they give you food stamps and then they sign you, register you to vote, but you don't have an address, and so they get all the registrations and then they mark them, Democrat, and they throw them in the.
I have no idea
mailbox.
whether or not that is true or
That
false.
is
I hear what
definitely
you're
true.
saying. Well, I have no
100%.
knowledge that would either prove or disprove what you just said.
And let's pass a law that you get a tax return for voting. You get a reward for voting, but you have to pay a poll tax. You have to file a tax return to vote.
There's some people who've said that it should be a national holiday, that people should be able to.
3-day holiday. 3-day holiday. Election day should be a 3-day holiday, and it will be in the state of California.
No, at the same time, I think that if it were to be a national holiday where no one had to go to work on election day, everyone, no matter who they are, has the day off to go vote on election day. I think that's something that mostly Republicans are the ones proposing that right now, but I'm for it. I think it'd be a good idea.
By creating a 3-day holiday, essentially you can get holiday pay for 2 of those days after you vote. And so that way you won't have businesses shut down, and you just pass a law that says election day is a 3-day holiday. It's that important. And if you get a receipt for who you voted for on your tax return. If you don't file a tax return, you can't vote. Representation without taxation is not legal.
U.S. citizens who were proven to be U.S. citizens who aren't working at the time should totally have the right to vote. I don't know how else to respond to that.
Well, I mean, okay, so let's say if you've got 3 kids, it says, let's say you got 3. You believe in one voice, one vote?
I believe that anyone, as long as they are a United States citizen, I think that they should have the right to vote, even if they are unemployed at the time.
Well, I didn't say unemployed. I said file a tax return. You have to file a tax.
But yes, and that's true. I hear that the distinction there is small, but it's existent, and you're right. But
that would be the way.
Okay,
the IRS could audit the election. So we wouldn't have this argument
because
about who won.
Because if someone's been unemployed for 2 years, not the
then
part
why
of
the
their
fuck
life.
are they voting?
Not the best part of their life, but if someone's been unemployed for 2 years, but as long as they're a U.S. citizen, yes, they should have
Okay,
the ability
so
to
if they're
vote.
sitting there,
Are you kidding? Yes, they should be asked.
I didn't say they couldn't.
Of course,
I didn't say they couldn't. You have to file a tax return.
But if they,
so that the IRS can audit the election.
So yeah, if they haven't worked in 2.5 years, which obviously is not an ideal state for any person, no one wants to be able to say that for themselves. But if they haven't worked for 2.5 years, there are some tax forms that they might file.
That, but have them file a tax form, okay? And now the government knows, hey, you've been unemployed this long, and now the government can contact you to get you a fucking job, because at the end of the day, that's another part that Now the government can reach out. I would also have a questionnaire on your election. I'd give you $500, but you got to fill out 500 questions to tell the government like what a real poll is, a real survey, and use election day as a way to really take into account what the voter is wanting. So you would vote on your tax return. You would have to show up to vote for a congressman and or. I just said that. Because
how would they file a tax return if they're unemployed?
you can still get you can still get a return.
There
if
are
you,
ways to do that.
well,
Yeah.
with respect, you can file a tax return even if you were unemployed. So and so I would just require that for your vote to count. As simple as that. It eliminates all this talk of illegals voting. It eliminates all this talk of people voting twice. You only file one set of taxes. You only have one social. Now you have an apparatus that is bipartisan. The IRS audits the election. And so if the wrong person won, I mean, some of these elections are called, way too early. And you have an audit, and now you don't have that extremism. You don't have that non-belief in the system. You have that much more trust in the system. I think is a great idea, and I don't know what the opposition is. Because I didn't say that unemployed people could not vote. I wouldn't even charge an unemployed person to file a return. There's a free return, but you have to file a return, and that way we get the questionnaire to you, and you could get $500 even if you don't work. You would get $500 to fill out all 500 questions. There are no wrong answers. Would you cut this program? Yes or no? Would you, whatever the voter is really complaining about? How do you feel about sanctuary cities? Do you think they should be legal? Yes or no? I clearly don't think they should be legal, but I think.
Do you know any person in your life who is undocumented? Do you have any friends?
Yeah.
Do you have any close friends or people that you have a close personal relationship with who are undocumented?
Yeah.
Like who?
Or in my life? No, not currently.
And do you think that if you happened to know someone who's undocumented and you happened to know their life story and have had a lot of experiences with them and know that they're a good person and they've had a lot of, good and bad experiences with them, but you have a real bond with them?
So get to it with respect.
What would you think about there being a place where they could take sanctuary? Just curious. If you knew someone, if you loved them, if you knew someone who's undocumented,
they
and
get
you loved
married.
them,
You can be a U.S. citizen.
No, because first of all, that is completely incorrect, and here's why.
Okay.
One, because it would not be determined bona fide, because the people who are in charge of the federal government right now would more than likely not consider it
So
bona
this is
fide, and
hyperbole.
they would be sent
You have
out.
not one instance, not one circumstance where Kristi Noem has said your marriage is fake. He's going home. That's bullshit.
Because she's in charge of DHS. She's not someone who's in charge.
If you're talking about somebody you loved and all this other stuff, get married, you can become a U.S. citizen.
If it's not bona fide, it's a huge, scary ass.
Go get a marriage license.
Do you want me to tell you what the word bona fide means in terms of this context? Okay.
Yes.
So, when a marriage is determined either bona fide or unbona fide, they're looking at it and they're saying, is this for real? Or are they just trying to pull one?
Like that Ryan Reynolds movie with Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. That's not happening in this administration. And if you could point to one instance that it has happened, I can't wait.
One instance where people have tried to file for a marriage visa.
One instance where this DHS or this Homeland Security has arrested somebody or deported somebody saying that their marriage was not bona fide.
I do not have that statistic.
That would be all over
the
the news if it happened once. If it happened one time. They're defending drug dealers. They're defending fentanyl dealers. They're defending gang members that are coming here. They're not. The Democratic Party is not.
If I were to find a source for you with information, would you consider it fake or would you look? I'm taking a look right now. Because there's probably thousands of situations like that have played out.
Okay,
not even just one.
Then let's pass a law that says, I don't know.
It's not even one single time that's happened. There's probably in the past 4 or 5, probably 10,000 situations where the has determined a marriage attempt like that to be not bona fide.
That's a lie.
There's probably thousands of. Because I didn't need to look. Okay, because look, I don't want to occupy. I don't want to occupy your time arguing over one specific issue.
So how about this? We've got the American Foreign Legion, a way to get in. You can sponsor a kid. You do 5 years, you sponsor yourself. You can sponsor a kid at 10. You can sponsor a wife or a dependent or whatever. We would have civilian jobs. But at the end of the day, they're driving wages down, and you have created a situation where an American citizen has a killer robot on one side, driving his wages down, keeping him from asking for a raise, and now you've got illegals coming here. I would deport them, point blank, period, and I would charge the nation of origin for the deportation costs.
So you
Simple as that.
So you do know
130% to 300%.
So you do know when you are close to some people that you care about that you would have immediately deported.
At the end of the day, if they're not willing to serve their country,
so you are. So just for the record, I'm asking you.
And they don't have a legal reason to be here.
So
they can prove that they are fleeing.
So you're telling me that you know there are at least one or a few people that you care about, that you're very close to, that you've got a personal relationship with, that you know, and you know their family. You're saying there's people in your life that fit that description for you where you would have them deported. Are you sure?
At the end of the day, until... Yes.
Are you
now,
sure that
can I finish?
Yeah.
Because the need for this to be some kind of cruel thing, I would charge the country of origin for the deportation cost. So this would not cost us. And at the end of the day, if they could prove that they're an American citizen and the cost is paid for, okay, let's say I could go to the country of origin and I can get your high school paid for, your Dreamer Scholarship paid for, and all this other crap paid for, then you can stay.
I think people with the stereotypical or archetypical set of opinions that you just said,
but like the idea that you
don't have a close, caring relationship with someone who would be
moreover,
one after another. Every time I meet someone who has that
is bankrupt.
Views, who has that basket
the country
of views,
is bankrupt.
Who knows and is close to someone who'd be
the country is bankrupt. I didn't say locked
and
up.
You don't. You're making it clear right now that you don't.
Where the hell did they come from in the first place? They came from that place. They just came here to collect benefits, to get access to a better healthcare system, and to have access to our jobs. At the end of
access to a better healthcare system is true. There's some liberals who'd like to say that immigrants are not having federal health benefits and federal, and they're
so
wrong. And
go
they're
to
wrong.
those countries and charge them for those healthcare benefits. I mean, I've got a Cal Guard. My Cal Guard is literally a bigger military than Mexico. The Cal Guard could kick the shit out of Mexico. And so I would literally roll my tanks down to Tenochtitlan and or Mexico City and collect my goddamn money. For every single person that's come across.
Como este, soy enojado.
This is the, okay, so what are you trying to prove here?
Yo soy como la gente de México y tú eres estúpido ahora. Espero que calmates. Espero que calmates. ¿Entendiste?
So, I understand English.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
So
I mean, I've been speaking
that's
it.
great.
I've been speaking it for the past 30, 40 minutes.
And so, what did you say in English? Or
I said that I have been to Mexico many times. I love Mexico.
Great.
I believe that the way you're characterizing and its people is incorrect.
Although I didn't say it's not
in
its people. I'm talking about I would go to the government of Mexico, and they would pay me for the health care that it costs my government of California.
How do you expect that kind of recourse? How? Like, how would you draw that kind of recourse from another country?
With a battalion of tanks. I would literally sit there and watch them print me fucking pesos out of their central bank and see if they had the goddamn cojones to do something about it. I'm dead serious. The Cal Guard could kick the Titoing shit out of Mexico. And then I take it to a step further. Every single high school where they were teaching this colonizer theory or racism or bigotry against Americans in general, I would lock up that teacher for 25 to life. I would literally lock them in a Mexican prison while guarding it myself and then charging the Mexican government. You're not going to brainwash a bunch of kids into thinking I owe you something because you got your ass whipped and then your granddaddy got his ass whipped in a war. We are the United States of America. We have never lost a war. Our politicians lose wars. You should see our kill ratios. It's like 800 to 1.
COVID was a war that we were too dumb to know that we were fighting.
It's a kung flu. It was a Chinese virus designed to kill their population. They're non-productive. And then they knew that we would hide like a bunch of chickens.
Okay, so if it was a virus that was designed to be released and have massive devastating effects like that, then, I mean, it's a subjective way to put it, but you could determine that an act of war. I think that you probably would, right?
I mean, so you want to go to war with China? Because I'm going.
don't have any opinion about that right now.
I would sue them in international court for the coronavirus. At the end of the day, we can prove that they are liable, and let's just leave it there. And there's more money. That way, if I'm taking money from other countries, I don't have to take money from people. Because people, you can't bleed a rock. There's no money. But like Mexico, they got oil. We just take the oil. They have their entire oil situation down there is one state-run company. So we just take it in oil. It's like, oh, oil's this price a barrel? Okay, we're just going to take that many barrels and guard your goddamn border and stop having so many kids because your economy can't handle them and neither can ours. Very simple. Stop teaching people to have kids and be fruitful and multiply. That's bullshit. I'd go have a goddamn conversation with the Pope. It's like, stop telling people that. The planet is overpopulated. Stop telling them to be fruitful and multiply. Yep. That was told to a bunch of Jews in a desert who needed to raise an army that had been devastated because they've been marching through a desert for 40 years. So their numbers had dwindled. That's why that was said. There was a context to saying that. Telling people to be fruitful and multiply when the planet is already overpopulated is irresponsible, and it's going to wind up, it's going to be Elysium. We're threatening humanity by continuing to breed like rats. It's madness. That's why gay people are net positive. They pay for schools, they pay taxes, they don't breed. And you almost always adopt, clearly, unless it's like a surrogate situation. Yeah, but many times you're caring for a child that no one cared for. I mean, homosexual couples are miracles sometimes because they show a child love that nobody wanted. That's a miraculous thing. Yep. And the idea that my party has led the way in trying to prevent that makes me.
My sister is adopted. My parents are heterosexual, and they adopted my sister from actually very well.
Heterosexual people didn't. Well, I'm saying heterosexual people can have their own kids because homosexual people, unless there's a surrogate situation, and many partners don't want to trust their partner with someone else and blah, blah, blah. It's at the end of the day, it's like, Ryan, if you really like pussy, okay, like, you got to tell me now. I can only imagine that conversation. But essentially, I would be very uncomfortable with another.
Take a room with 10 heterosexual men. Between 100 and 100%, between you, the next time you walk into a room and there's 10 heterosexual men, between 1 and 2 of them, I guarantee you, I know this, between 1 and 2 of them have had experiences you don't know about. I'm not the type of gay guy who thinks everyone is gay.
Stuff. I mean, I maybe not. I've never found a male attractive. I don't know why women let us flop around on us, but I definitely see the benefit. And like, two guys can just like have a fist fight and a beer, and like, because I know guys in the Navy are gay, and it's like, dude, we don't have domestic issues. Like, we box and like literally put on gloves, go downstairs, box, and then have a beer, and we either make up or we don't. And it's like, y'all live with a creature that you can't touch, you can't even breathe on hard, and if she literally wants to gone girl herself, you go to jail for 30 years. So, like, I mean, it's like you're going to take it in the ass in divorce court just because I take it in the ass every night. I at least enjoy it. I don't know why the fuck you do that to yourself. And, like, both of the Navy guys laughed their asses off. They just, And they had a point. They gave it to each other, but they had a point. I could see, I could see, aside from the sexual part, I could see the benefits to a man-and-man relationship. That does not exist between men and women.
Our hookup culture gives us the ability to not end up getting intertwined with psycho, dangerous people. I may very well have hooked up with a couple clinical narcissists without getting close to them or getting my life screwed up by them at all.
So what do you think about this shooting at the Mormon church? Not to change gears, but
I feel humiliated right now to say that I don't. When did this happen? Today or yesterday?
Today, and I'm just learning about it too.
Oh, all right.
I don't know the motive. It's just terrible that we still have this. And so,
well, they say that political violence is increasing right now. That type of thing, horrible, tragic thing, has been happening for a long time. 2 decades.
The glass they had in front of the president at the ball game the other night. They should put that in front of every single politician now, I think. how do we get rid of shootings at churches and schools? I still don't.
Well,
It's
I don't
tragic.
think. I mean, what I don't.
You
I'm
can't put a bulletproof shield around the school.
in favor of overturning the Second Amendment for any reason. No way.
I'm giving up the Second Amendment.
No way. So, I really don't know what we're going to do about it, to be honest. So what would you do about it?
I think we need an enhanced background check. I think you need to have your weapon registered with the sheriff, and I think we need to protect Second Amendment rights after that. But after a certain caliber, anything north of what an M16 is, a 223, you have to have it registered with the sheriff. And, that way at least we can find the fucking shooter. And, and just have it registered that you have it.
There's people who say that there's lots of people who will go get guns and buy them illegally. And
Fixing a lot of the problem, and if you are found with an illegal gun, that's a charge in itself. You can go to jail. I'm fixing a lot of the problem. The argument that it didn't fix 100% of the problem, so it's no solution at all. Well, there's no such thing as a final solution. That didn't work for my people, and it won't work for yours, you dumbass. Okay? Only Hitler thought that there was a final solution, and was he a genius? No. He was an evil fuck. Okay? There's no such thing as a final solution. There's no such thing as a solution from the government that's going to do right by 600 million people. It's fucking impossible. It's impossible. This fixes a lot of the problem and gives sheriffs a bird's eye view after a shooting who has that caliber weapon.
So these are some of the ways
these
are some of the ways as governor of California you would approach gun legislation that allows people to protect themselves and keep their Second Amendment rights while trying to reduce the incidence of tragic scenarios like this. This is a pretty standard common sense perspective. This is
around schools and government buildings, unless you are military. Like, for so on right now, if they build a school next to your house, that's one thing. But let's say you live next to a school. You cannot own an M16.
I like that. No, I'm in agreement with
within
it.
2 miles of a school or something like
But
that.
then, look,
where a kid could walk home and then be mad and then come back and walk.
Sometimes I hear what you say, and it's not that I refute you. It's that I have spent so many years paying attention to the conservative perspective that it's almost like I hear what you say, and then right here, I hear what they think. What they think when you say that is, well, look at all of the people who have done awful stuff like that. How many of them
Now I can focus on them because I'm not having to focus on you. That is a response to that stupid question.
So when it comes to this incident that just happened in Michigan, let's say that it either was or was not a registered gun that was purchased legally. Because there's lots of people who take the more conservative stance on gun control, which is almost none. They would say, well, most of those guys don't even follow the rules anyway. So the ones who follow the rules have to be able to protect themselves, yada, yada. So
protect yourself against who?
I'm
if
not
the government turned on you,
disagreeing with
you would not be able to beat a tank with your stupid rifle. 1. 2, if the governor instituted martial law, there wouldn't be a goddamn thing you could do about it. Just cut shit outside of impeaching. 3, so this idea that you're going to overthrow the government with your rifle is a stupid idea. You're not. Even a local police department has enough resources and armored personnel carriers to lock down a city if they wanted to. It's just nuts. What we need to do is eliminate, in that hour that it has happened, eliminate as many people from probable suspects so they can find the shooter, so they can get him. Or, eliminate as many suspects as possible so that law enforcement has, less, needles to, or less haystack to sort through to find the needle. You eliminate 70 to 80% of the people who own a rifle like that by just having them register. And then now you've got a prosecutor who's an idiot, right? And so this kid gets off on an insanity plea, but he can't get off on an insanity plea for not registering the weapon, so now he still goes to jail for 10 years, even if he got away with the shooting on an insanity plea.
More than 10 years, but
probably
not for the
more
rest
than 10
of his
years.
life.
Probably more than
25, 30,
That's some justice. And so with respect,
you're right.
With respect, this is good legislation that would fix many problems. Well, that's all the time we've got for today. My editor's got to get back to his fiance, and I've got to do some editing. We've had about 2 hours today.
Is that right? Wow, it flew by like minutes.
Did. so much for sharing
Of
your
course.
perspective on the Borne Report, and I hope I've earned your vote or at least gotten a little closer. Who are you thinking of supporting if, like, who do you think the Democratic nominee is, and would you support her or him regardless?
Who do I
at
think
this
the
point?
Democratic nominee for president in 2028 will be? Oh, I see.
Against a potential Democrat, who do you think that Democrat's going to be? Because Kamala's already said it's not going to be her.
it's not.
Gavin can't run again. Who do you think is going to be the nominee? And is there a way, or
We
have I
really don't
gotten any
know.
closer into?
We really don't know yet. And it's interesting. You'd think that we might have an idea of who is going to be running. I think there's a list of 6 or 7 potential Democratic gubernatorial candidates that will run. I haven't looked at it right now. As I say this, I realize I haven't looked at it quite as closely as I should have. But depending on who they are, when I see your name on that box, I guarantee you I'll feel all warm and fuzzy for you.
Whatever you do, get out there and vote. Make your voice heard. It's a right people have fought for, and I want you to have it. But it's a right that, if you don't use it, you essentially lose it for 4 years, in some of these elections. So don't be the voiceless. Get out there and vote. All right, this has been Jason Bennett for the Borne Report.
Me?
Yeah, anything, any brands or anything that you got going as far as? Not at all. So this is just a concerned voter and a concerned taxpayer willing to share his very valuable time, and we thank you very much for coming on the Borne Report today, and God bless you.